Hello and assalamu alaikum everyone. A very warm welcome to the day 3, the final day of the SBL Jun 24 webinars to success, and I am your tutor Kashif Kamran. Today is the final day, the day 3, and the agenda of the day 3 is inspiration to success. And for that inspiration, I have gathered a team of my shining stars from March 24 exam sittings. I've already been joined by two of the shining stars, Muhammad Uwais Raza from Pakistan, who scored 73 marks in SBL March 24 exams, and Umaima Irfan from Pakistan. She scored 71 marks in SBL March 24 exams. I'll be shortly be joining by other students. I'll keep taking them on board and then telling you their introduction. Now, without wasting time, I will go to the agenda of the webinar. I need to involve the students more into the webinar today so they can speak to you and you can ask questions to them. So this becomes more of an interactive session. Just 1 second and we are starting the proceedings. Okay. So let's start on with the proceedings to this Inspiration to Success session. I need to be joined by a panel of students from Pakistan and India. Currently, I just have 2 students from Pakistan. Shortly, students from India would be joining in as well. So that will become a more broad-based panel discussion. Students guiding you how you can achieve success in the upcoming SBL June 24 exams. Okay, let's start with the very first thing. We'll go in order. Muhammad Uwais Raza, you will speak first. I'll just unmute you shortly, and then Umaima Irfan, you will be speaking in order. What 3 factors will you tell students which resulted in you scoring this high marks in SBL? So over to you, Uwais. Let me unmute you. You can now unmute yourself.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Thank you so much, sir, for this opportunity. The factors that led to me scoring 73, I guess, were knowing all the models very well. You don't need to name the models per se in the exam, but you do need to know the underlying stuff, everything in the models. Right? You need a very good grip on those. And the second thing that helped was a good grip on the preceding material. That's very important because if you go through the preceding material a few times and go through your webinars, you can get a really nice grip on the preceding material and you know all the weaknesses, the threats, everything that is taught using the models, so you can apply to the preceding material as well. So these 2 things I believe are the most important factors. I sadly was not able to do any past papers because I was working full time, but I was still able to score pretty well, thank God. Yeah, that's about it.
Okay.
And if I had to give a tip to somebody, I'd say please really practice your time management skills because I really messed up in the exam with the time, and also go through the exhibits because I did not go through one exhibit and I started writing the answer and I wrote the entire answer and then I went to the exhibit. Oh, we have an exhibit to go through as well. So yeah, 4 of these.
Okay, thank you so much, Muhammad Uwais Raza. I'll just be
No problem.
recapping it at the end of every question. Over to you, Umaima. The same question, what are the 3 factors which contributed you scoring this high marks in SBL?
Okay, first of all, thank you, sir, for having me. So the 3 factors which contributed towards my success were practice. SBL is all theory-based exam, so you have to practice a lot during the exam. I practice each past paper twice. In a pattern of, I first draft my answer by my own self. Later on, I read the examiner answer as well to modify my answer according to it and grab some more important points. And I also used to read technical articles as well, which helped me a lot to polish my models, concepts, and everything. And yeah, lastly, I would also like to add, if you have time, go and read examiner reports as well, which will help you to understand the examiner perspective, like which candidates were having weaknesses and the shortcomings they faced during their exam, so that you don't come up with that issues in your exam. So yeah, that helped me a lot to score this.
Okay, that's great. That's great. Thank you so much, Umaima. We'll just keep building up the discussion. I just need to take on board Giot. You have joined from India. You scored 82 marks from India. That's one of the highest I got from my batch of students for March 24 exams. I'll just unmute you. And Giot, if you can tell students, how did you score this high marks in SBL? What were the three underlying reasons which you would like to tell students about?
Yes,
Over
sir.
to you.
Sure. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
So the factors that I think that helped me were past papers, then examiner articles, moving on through time management, because I think SBL has time traps in it. So I think moving on quickly would help students to finish the paper. And yeah, just practicing past papers and don't compare it with examiner's answer. You try to compare it with your teacher's answer. So you know what you write according to exam scenario. And then I also read examiner articles so that you know what candidates made mistake, time traps, which areas they were trapped, or which areas they tried to focus too much on models. I identified them and I tried not to repeat those mistakes.
Okay, fine. Okay, fine. Thank you. And anything else you would like to add to that, Giot, or we can move to the next question. So I hope all of you have heard from Umaima, Uwais, Raza, and Giot about what were the three factors which contributed to them scoring this high marks in SBL. I've also been joined by Mahrukh. She is from Pakistan. She scored 71 marks in the SBL paper in March 24 exams. Mahrukh, can you tell me the answer to this question on your screen? What three factors will you tell students which resulted in you scoring 71 marks in SBL? You can unmute yourself now. I think we just lost the connection to her. Okay.
Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Sir, so I would answer this question. Like first, I would like to give some background. Like I had like a week or so to prepare. Like effectively, I had 10 days basically. So I don't know if you remember. I was very confused if I should even go with the exam or not. So what I did in my last 10 days was that I just focused on the main topics. Like I would just read a model, not like fully learn it or spend too much time on it. I would just take a quick look at at the topic, and I would just start with the past papers. And I think what I focused most on were the professional marks. So I learned what was the requirement to gain each professional marks. Like for commercial acumen, you need to have the sound knowledge of the industry, and for confident for like skepticism, you need to question the ways of like what was given in the scenario, you need to question it. So adding in, like I applied that in the exam, like I added question marks. So I think that's what helped me score more. Like to be honest, my preparation might not have been up to the mark, but I focused on gaining those easy marks. So
Okay.
that's how I scored well.
Okay, that's great. That's great. Okay, fine. Now you can just mute yourself before I move to the next question, and I'll keep building up the discussions with all of you. My next question to all of you will go in the order. What was your focus in the last 2 weeks before exams? You know, the SBL June exams is just around the corner. Now, this is a crucial time. I'm conducting this webinar when ideally the exams are just 16, 17 days away. So what should be the focused list of students at this point in time? Because you've passed through the same phenomena in March 24 exams. So what would you like to share with the students? Again, starting with you, Muhammad Uwais Raza, in the order, then going down. Yes, please start to speak.
In the last 2 weeks, I was really all over the place with my preparation. Right, I was done with the lectures, but I had the Kaplan exam kit. I opened it because I use it in every exam, and I was completely lost. So I put it aside. I revised all the models again. That's all I did because I had work as well. So just did revision and waited for the pre-scene video to be up and watch that. That's all I could do in the last 2 weeks.
Okay, so that's primarily the revision of models. That is the more
Yeah.
focused area, and then the pre-scene, right? You spend time on it. Okay, we'll come to the next question again. That what sort of approach you took on
Exactly.
pre-scene?
That's
So
it.
just wait for Thank you so much, Uwais. Okay, the same question to you, Umaima. If you can just unmute yourself now and tell me the answer. What should you do 2 weeks before exam?
So yeah, when you're away 2 weeks from your exam, it's better you finish your lectures before it and you spend your time over the pre-seen material as well to understand and familiar yourself with the industry and the jargons used inside it. And yeah, you have to revise all the models because there are plenty of models inside the SBL exam. So it's better you revise all the models. And yeah, it's better to watch the webinars as well because your webinars were the main part that played a lot in my success factor as well, that helped me to know how to format the answer and how to develop the sentences as well. So yeah, that's the thing you should do in the last 2 weeks of your exam.
Okay, so almost quite an identical answer as well. The pre-scene, you need to make yourself familiar with that and models the revision of that, right? Thank you. Over to you, Giot. If you can speak to the same question, you can unmute yourself now and tell students what should they do in 2 weeks' time.
Yes, sir. So what I did was I tried solving time-based mock. So, I could feel the time pressure and try to complete it. Then I went through the answers of past papers. So, I knew what mistakes I made and tried to solve it. Then I also read examiner reports and examiner articles and yeah, went through pre-seen and your webinars.
Okay. You went through the models as well, the pre-scenes, and you looked at the answer of the past papers, and you did the
Yes.
time-based mock, right? So that's the first time
Yes.
I'm listening from the panel. Okay, thank you so much. What about you, Mahrukh? What sort of an approach you took in the last 2 weeks before exam? You just mentioned that you started 10 days before exams, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, like when I started, the pre-scene was already available. So whichever question I used to attempt, I used to think in light of that pre-scene. Like if like I'm doing any question, like whenever I used to attempt it from the kit or from the past exam paper, I used to ask myself in perspective of the pre-scene. Like, what if this question was asked according to the football club? So I would just make up an answer in my head and be able to assess it in that perspective. So I think that helped me think in many ways about the football club.
Okay. So fine. Anything else you would like to add to that apart from the pre-scene and you contextualize everything in context of the football club, or you
Yeah,
practice?
also I think I used to type everything out, like whichever question I used to be doing, I would make sure that I type out at least a part of it so that my speed is maintained, and like I focused on my speed and my I made sure in the exam also that I make no grammar mistakes, no spelling mistakes, even if it's it's not the examiner might not deduct marks for it, but to gain the professional marks, I think it's important that you write correctly.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much, Mahrukh. Now, just to continue on something you all said, you were all very focused on the use of the pre-scene in the last 14 days. So I would just like to ask quickly from each one of you, what approach you took on pre-scene, as in like how much time you used to give every day, or like any specific strategy you adopted on the pre-scene, how you absorbed it, or what sort of you applied anything to the pre-scene, you extracted some questions out of it. Just be as open as possible about the strategy you adopted for pre-scene. Starting first with Owais, your approach to pre-scene.
My approach was very simple. I just got a printout of the entire pre-scene because I prefer reading stuff in hard copies. Um, so I got a printout. I used to highlight important stuff, whatever was important. I don't really remember what was important because it was really long pre-scene. I also questions such as what are the football company's strengths, what are its weaknesses, everything. Just jot it all down in a document and use it. Just go through it every few days before the exam. Yeah, and watch your webinars.
Okay, and ideally it was
That's it.
like every day you used to study the pre-scene, or it was just like not every day, as
Oh
in
no,
like.
I think in the last 15 days I went through the pre-scene. I'd say around 3 to 4 times, maybe. One was one
Mhm.
day right before the exam, and I think 2 3 days during the last 2 weeks. That's
Okay.
about it.
Okay, that's great. Umaima, what about your approach to pre-scene? Was that any different to what Owais just mentioned? Yes, you can now unmute yourself.
So yeah, first of all, I also make a printout over the pre-scene so that I can use to read it properly.
Okay.
But yeah, I used to invest an hour or half an hour over it each day. I used to read the pre-scene to make myself familiar with the industry, and I used to apply the models over it, just like pestle model. I used to think over it like if something comes around it, so I should have an open mind over it. I should write easily. So yeah, I applied the models over it, and yeah, that was my approach over the pre-scene material. I watched your webinar as well over the pre-scene, and the questions you guided. So that were important as well because I saw some questions in my paper as well regarding that. So yeah, I like drafted an answer over it as well regarding the material I have over the pre-scene.
Okay, great. Thank you. Just noted that down. What about you, Giot? What sort of an approach you took on the pre-scene?
Yeah, so basically, I went through precinct twice or thrice provided by the ACCA, and then I used to go through precinct provided by you. Those were the important points, I think. And
Okay.
used to go through that points through internet also. So that through research would make my job easier to frame an answer in the examination.
Mm-hmm.
I would have information, so I could write easily, or I wouldn't waste time thinking.
Okay, great. Thank you. And what about you, Mahrukh? What sort of an approach you adopted on pre-scene, as in like how much you used to revise it to make yourself familiar with it?
Okay, so once the pre-scene was available, I just like there were many jargons. Like I'm the kind of person who is very far away from sports. I think I had only watched a single match of football in my whole lifetime, so I had no idea about football. So I made myself familiar with the kind of like what was going on, what was the context, what was broadcasting, like anything that I was even a little bit confused about. I used to chat GPT and ask him that please like tell me what is broadcasting revenue, what is it, and there's something about player kits. So I had no idea about how the revenue is generated for sports and everything. So I made sure that I clear my head about anything that was mentioned in the pre-scene that I did not know about in detail. So once, like in the first week, I think I just did that. I just made myself familiar with how a football match is played, and how like what goes behind a football match and the teams and everything. So after that, I just, as I said, I used to think everything in context of the pre-scene, and I think that really helped.
Okay,
Uh,
great. Mahrukh, if I'm not wrong, you mentioned about the chat GBT in your pre-scene, right? My next question would be, because we are living in an era where this artificial intelligence has become so common, and I also is using it as part of my lecture building as well. The chat GPT, how is that being used? Anyone else have used it? Owais, Omaima, and Giot, have you used it in your study so far for ACCA in the SPL paper, particularly for anything? If you can just raise your hand, so I'll just unmute you. Okay, I'll go with you, Owais, first. Okay, fine.
What I did was I used to read the articles, all the examiner articles, and after that I would copy the entire article in ChatGPT and ask them to write a summary. And I get a really nice summary of all the points. But I mean, I did not go back to those points close to my exam. I just got a PDF of the point.
Okay, I think we got stuck, or it's the we are back and you can all hear me, right? Great. Sorry. Wes, again, just unmuting you because we were in the middle of that discussion on chat GPT when we got disconnected. You were telling about that you used to paste the article in that chat GPT to make a summary and then utilize it, right? So if you can continue on that.
Yeah, I used to read the entire article, paste it in ChatGPT, get a summary. And ChatGPT used to give me sometimes a really good summary, sometimes a really bad summary. So I had to add stuff myself sometimes as well. So that's about all I did. I read the article once, get a summary, and read the summary once. I was not able to go through the summaries once more close to the exam, but I think just doing this much also helped.
Okay, that's great. And anyone else used it? Giot, Umaima, you used? Okay, fine. Let me unmute you. Sure, Umaima, you can speak now. You can unmute yourself. Okay, yes.
So yeah, I use ChatGPT in sense of like I used for advantages and disadvantages of licensing, joint venture, and I remember there was a fake kit implication as well in the case study material that were provided to us. So yeah, I went for it, like implications of fake kits and the advantages over it and disadvantages over it, how to deal with it, so that I know the answer if something come in the exam, so I can use over it. So yeah, I use for the major portion for advantages and disadvantages of the joint ventures and all.
Okay, that's great. And what about you, Giot? Did you use any sort of that technology in your learning?
Yes, so I use this website, OpenTuition, and there's a feature there called Ask AI. It's,
Okay.
it's available for every subject, and so I use it for every exam. It's really helpful.
Great. So that means that technology and artificial intelligence and chat GPT is really transforming the way students are studying for ACCA, right? And I think that's a great opportunity for students doing ACCA. Times have changed. The way we used to do ACCA now, the way you are doing ACCA is very different, right? So it's more about technology over the internet, over the Google. You can find most of the answer and stuff. So that has made life easier for student, I guess, right? And probably you can prepare yourself better if you are like a creative student, an innovative student, a forward thinker. I think studying has become easier, and probably you can that can result into very good scores in SBL as well. Okay, just a few of the more questions to all of you. What's the best way in exam? Is it to read the task first and exhibits after? Is that the right recommendable approach, or you used to do something different than that? And is it like reading all the task 1, 2, 3, and then come back doing the task 1, or is it like one task at a time, not even bothered about what's been asked in the task 2? What sort of an approach you took about the 3 tasks and then connecting them to exhibits? Starting with you, Oways, first.
Oh yeah. The right I think approach is to first you read the task and then you go through the exhibit, right? Because you read your task, you know what exhibit you need to read for the specific task, and then you can read the exhibit and know what the task is asking, and you can just highlight the important information from there. So yeah, I think that is the right approach. But do remember to read the exhibit, because as I said in the beginning, I read one task and I said, oh, I know this answer. It was, I think, to do with the benefits of e-marketing. I think that's where it was, the last question. It was for around 18 marks, and I just wrote everything I knew about e-marketing, the benefits, the drawbacks, everything. And then I went to the exhibit, and I was like, oh my God, we have information. So I had to change almost everything. I didn't have the time to change everything, so I just changed the bullet points a bit in the slides and tried anything I could do to fix it. Fun fact, after my exam, I was calculating how many marks I could get. So I was thinking I attempted 52 marks. I'd say well. So I was thinking I can score maybe 35 out of these 52, probably. And I need another 15 from 48 marks. So I was really scared up until the result if I had even passed. But
okay. So that's great.
So,
That's
yeah.
that's quite of an inspiration to other students as well. So it's not not about, I perhaps believe it's completing the paper. It's about grabbing the opportunities in paper. If you can grab those opportunities and you can excel on those opportunities, even if you do 75-80% paper, but that's been done on an excellent side, you can still pass through any of the ACCA paper. So that's great. Thank you, Wes. Umaima, over to you. What sort of an approach? Is it the task first and the exhibit after? And is it like reading all the 3 tasks first, or it's just like one by one going on them in order?
So yeah, I used to read task first and then exhibits later on. Just I agree with Oves as well. The way he said that first you read the task and then go for the exhibit, so you know that what material are you finding on. So I used to read all three tasks together to identify which question to attempt first. No, so and yeah, reading the task also give you benefit. Like you should identify the verb and subject in the task, so that according to that you go and tackle the question and draft your answer. And during that I used to plan my answer as well and format my answer like for the report and the letter as well during that all process. But yeah, reading the task first is way more better than reading the exhibit, because if you read the exhibit first and then task later, then you have to read the exhibit again to know where was the answer. So yeah, it's better to read the task first.
Okay, great. So both of you are in agreement. Task first and exhibit after. Is that the same thought process you have, Giot? Task first and exhibit after.
Yes, reading task first gives you an advantage to, process the information, what to write, what not to write. So you save time. Otherwise, you'll have to read again and again. You could also write bullet points, so that would help you frame your answer.
Great, great. And obviously the copy paste option you have, right? You keep
Yes,
copy pasting things from the exhibit to your word
yes,
processor. And at the end of the day, that can
sure,
really become your launching pad for
yes,
writing a good answer. Okay, great.
sure.
What about you, Maruk? Is it the same approach, the task and exhibits in that order?
Yeah. So like, but you could add in that I would read the task first, then the exhibit, and then the task again, because often the text is so big that you forget the requirement. So in fact, I used to go back to the requirement a couple of times while even attempting the question. Like I would be typing and I would just go back again to the requirement and see if I'm writing according to what is asked. And also like whenever you ask that whether to read all the tasks at once, so I do not recommend that. Just read one requirement at a time. And I used to calculate the time that I had for that particular requirement, and I would minus that from the running time. So I did used to spend like a minute doing this, but I would still do it. And whenever the time that like I had in my mind it ends, I just stop right there. So I was very strict on that I cannot waste a minute over than what is required.
Okay, great, great. That's like quite a sound exam strategy. I hope the students are hearing you. There are some questions as well for all of you. I'll just be asking you first. Let me finish my Q&A sessions, and then I'll be giving you some student questions to answer. Okay, how can you write a good answer in SBL? Any tips for that? Is it like a connection with case? Is it like something generic and then adapting it to the case? So what sort of things you did ideally to build up that good answer? Definitely the marker would be impressed by all of you. That's the reason the marker has awarded you something like 71, 73, 75, and 82. There must be something special in your answers, and you should not hide that out because you've already passed the SBL paper. You should share that with the upcoming prospective SBL students. So if you can be a bit open about your answer quality and what were the underlying factors in your answer which really make it like a well-developed point. Over to you, Oves, first.
Um, I'm not really sure how to answer this, because I feel like what's really important is your formatting, because this was my third E-level exam, my ACC exam, right? So I think I had a good grip on the formatting, underline stuff, headings, a very nice format, right? And the next thing is generic. I don't think ever helps. You need to be very specific with your answer and need to connect it to the case very well. That's what all the marks are. Because if you write something generic, I don't think you'll be able to get marks. So I was always trying to link everything to the exhibit. That's about it. Yeah,
Okay, so
just
no
link
space
everything
for
to the
gender.
exhibit.
Okay, link everything to the
Yeah.
exhibit, right? Just continuing on that discussion, I just saw a requirement in the June 24 mock exam. It was asking about the benefits of diversifying the board. There was no exhibit in the mock exam for anything you can get from the exhibits about the board diversity. Now, advantages of board diversity is something very journalized. You must have read an article on that. You know what are advantages of board diversity, but it's more important to connect those advantages to the scenario, to the organization given in the case paper. But if you just write the journal advantages and there is no connection with the case, no connection with the characteristics of the case, you're probably not scoring that 2 out of 2 for well-developed point. Examiner might give you 0.5 because you wrote an advantage, but that advantage was not connected well to the case scenario. So even there is no exhibit for it, try just to connect it to some sort of a pre-seen material, some sort of a familiarity you build up with the pre-seen material, etc. So at least it becomes a good answer. So no space for generic writing, as just Muhammad Uwais Raza highlighted. Okay, Umaima, any thought process on that? What is the definition of a good answer?
So yeah, writing a good answer is a bit technical approach that I use. Like you have to copy and paste the material which you have to input in your answer. Later on, evaluate each sentence which you have copied and pasted, like based upon your marks. I'm giving an example regarding a 2 marks question. Like if you have a 2 marks question, you have to write at least 3 to 4 sentences over it, a complete 3 to 4 sentences. And yeah, you have to focus over the professional marks as well. Read the professional marks requirement very carefully so that you use to grab that marks as well. Later on, I would like to add on over it, like, yeah, there is no generic answer over it. But I used to learn some advantages which you said, like diversified board one. So yeah, I have learned that, but I used to specify according to the case study as well. So it's important to alter the answer later on. You can not rote learn and write the answer in your exam.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for that. Giot, your thought process on that in terms of the quality of answer, what should that be? Yes, you can start to speak now.
Yes, I tried writing my answers through headings and subheadings, and under those headings, I started my sentence with a statement of fact from the scenario. So, then I could develop that answer easily. And yeah, I read professional marks and tried putting it in those answers through question marks or through my own perspective for commercial acumen or anything that could help me from scenario. I tried just linking to the scenario and, open-minded.
Great,
So,
great.
yeah.
Great, thank you, thank you. Mahrukh, your perspective on the quality answer, the underlying factors which build up the quality answer in SPL. You can speak now.
Okay, adding to what Umaima said, definitely the layout and the way you write your answer should look like it should look professional. So a lot of your focus should be on that, and I think it really matters that you connect it to the case study, but it also matters that your layout and your like the how your answer is looking it should be very professional. So like I knew when I was in the exam hall, I knew that my preparation was not up to the mark. So I told myself that I have to do my best today. So what I did was I made sure that my answers looked really good, and like I used bold and like the bullet points, and made sure all the headings are nicely placed. So little things like that. So I think that really helped. And also when I was studying, when I was preparing for my exam, I focused on that I should know at least 50% of each requirement. Like for example, think about advantages and disadvantages was being talked about. So instead of learning like 6 advantages and 6 disadvantages based on 2 marks each, I used to just learn 2. So I made sure that I at least knew 2, so I can maybe make up more based on those 2. So like I made sure that I'm not doing it learning a lot of text, but I'm learning just enough to score that 50% in each requirement.
Great, great, great. So there is a lot of similarity among all of you as well, but at the same time, I do find some differences as well in your approach to how you build up the quality answer. And I hope that's helping the student, because at the end of the day, bringing 4 of you in the session was to add the diversity. So at times I'm getting very similar answers. That is also very good. But sometimes there is a bit difference of opinion, which is adding value to what a student can do for the June 24 exams as well. Okay, what is the easiest approach you can adopt for professional marks in SBL? I found students very blur with professional marks. They totally misunderstood what professional marks are. Is there any easy recipe for professional marks? Any easiest way you can get like 15, 16 out of 20? Just try to put them in very layman perspective as to how they can build up a good score on professional marks. Again, starting with you, Owais first. And I'm starting every time with Owais first because he was the first in the meeting, right? So no discrimination. It's just like the order in which you came into the meeting, right? Okay, over to you, Owais.
I never look at professional marks as something different because I just look at how many marks the question has without the professional marks, right? It says, for example, part A is for 18 marks. So I just try my best to write enough points to get those 18 marks because the professional marks are a part. I mean, if you write a good 18-mark answer, you'll get the 5 marks for professional marks as well. So I have never looked at professional marks as something separate in any of my exams, including SBL. And I think it helps because you know, okay, if it's 18 marks, you need to write 9 points, 2 marks each, you just write them. If they're good enough, you get a professional marks as well. Yeah.
Okay. So you're not taking professional marks as something separate. You're just writing a good technical answer. And then definitely, if it is a good technical answer, definitely you will be getting some of those professional marks as well. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, thank you. Umaima, your approach to professional marks, as in like how the student can understand a professional mark in SBL.
So yeah, I agree with Owais as well, but I want to add on something over it. To gain professional marks, you should know the formats you're using. So have a proper format and avoid repeating the stuff. So that gains you professional marks as well, and use professional wordings in your paper so that it looks professional. And as I mentioned earlier, to gain the professional marks, you have to read the requirement that is given by the examiner. So yeah, you will understand, like if examiner asks you to don't elaborate something, so if you are using that thing in your answer, you will lose a professional mark. So it's better so you read the statement that examiner has mentioned at the end of the question. So yeah, that's the thing that you can use to approach the professional marks.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for that summarized approach to professional marks, Umaima. Okay, over to you, Jyot. What's your approach to professional marks, as in how you can make a student life easier for professional marks appearing for June 24 exams?
Sir, I think professional marks are easier to score. It's the just a perspective. If it's skepticism skills, then you assume yourself to be a student, and ask doubts. How has this figure come, or why has this occurred? You just ask doubts. If those are commercial acumen, then you assume yourself to be a teacher, and how a teacher explains a student. You just elaborate the point and explain how has this occurred or what could have been done. So that's commercial acumen. It's just the perspective, and yeah, good presentation would make your job easier.
Okay, great. That's just the perspective. Okay, that's great. Okay, what about you, Mahrukh? Anything you would like to add to this discussion about how the student can excel on professional marks in SBL?
Yeah, I used a similar approach to Geode, and like really getting into that perspective that okay, what do I need to do? Because the information that is given to you, that is very like, it is the kind of way that helps you to apply that professional skill that is asked of you. So if they have asked you to provide professional skepticism, they will write a test that has those key points where you can question it. Like for example, in my case, I had got a question on like the directors were proposing a strategy on something, and they had like suggested some options. So I copied each option, and I said like I wrote something like, will this be feasible, will this be is this going to work? Like somebody also asked this, that what do you mean by question marks? So this is what I mean, that you need to ask the question that do you think that this strategy is going to work? Like you need to question the requirement.
Great. So that sets quite a good dimension on professional marks. Again, the students have a lot of fear factor around professional marks. Probably they don't have any clear definition of what they should be doing, because all of you have passed SBL with exceptional marks. So listening to you probably will set the right tone or the right dissemination among students as to how they can excel upon the professional marks. Okay, lastly, and then moving towards a wind up. 3 tips to excel on the day of exam. On the day of exam, what I mean to say here is it's like expect the unexpected also. You might get something which you have not studied. You might get a requirement which you have not even seen in the last 7 to 8 papers. You might get a very different topic or a very different model which was not very well prepared. So in all sort of that dilemma, what's the best way you can survive on the day of exam? 3 tips for that. Again, first starting with Uwais. You can take your time to decide
I
and then,
think,
yeah, sure, go ahead.
okay. I think the most important point is that you have a good night's sleep before the exam. So if anything does come up that you don't know, you have a fresh mind to um, go after that point. The second point would be there may be one topic that you aren't very well prepared for, but there are other, I don't know, 8, 9 topics that you are well prepared for. So you shouldn't worry about that one topic, and you should just answer everything else. And you can look at it in the end if you have time. You probably have time, so you can just look at it in the end. And the third point would be time management for sure. You used to tell us that you should time yourself 1.8 minutes per point, and you should write down if it's 10 marks, you have 18 minutes, and after the 18 minutes are over, just move on to the next question. Leave it and you can come back to it later. So that's about it. Time management, good night's sleep, and
Looking at
bounce
the
the
opportunity.
questions, come
Yeah,
back to them later.
fine,
Yeah.
fine, fine. Great, great. Definitely, there could be some unexpected questions in the paper. You have to be prepared for that. These are strategic level papers of ACCA. You cannot get everything as you thought about on the day of exam, right? What about your perspective on this, Umaima, as in like 3 tips to excel on the day of exam? You have passed through that. So what exactly needs to be done?
So yeah, if on the day of exam you come with a question which you don't have any clue how to attempt it, so it's better to don't stress over it and don't waste your time over it. It's better to leave that question for the specific time and move ahead and attempt the whole paper, and then later on come over the question so that you can think over it easily, and then whatever you know about the material, just write over it. You'll gain some marks over it. That's the approach to tackle the question if you have no clue how to attempt it. So, and the second tip is that you should be relaxed before your paper. You should don't study before your paper. Like if you have paper at 1 p.m. and it's better to don't study before 1 p.m. You should have a fresh mind over it. So because you don't get exhausted or tired because the paper is quite long. So you should be fresh in your exam. So yeah, that's the tip.
Okay, 2. That's 2. Any third tip? Or you can think about it and I'll come back to you later.
Okay, the third tip I would like to add on. I'll come back to it later. You can ask Maruk and Jared, and then I'll come back to
You told me 2 tips. Leave it and move on if you don't know anything, and relax before the exam, right? So these are 2. You can think about a third one. I'll just come back to you in order,
Yeah,
right?
I have like one.
Yeah,
Like
sure.
you should have a time management as well. Like the
Fine.
time you have allocated before in your mind. So you should follow that time. Like if you have allocated a 40 minutes time to a question number 1, so then you have to move ahead after that 40. You should not stay and stick over it. Like you have not completed the answer and like that stuff. You have to move ahead and leave the question and then come back later if you have time left.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. Now that makes the list to 3. Thank you so much, Umaima. Over to you, Jyot. Your perspective, 3 key tips you can do on the day of exam.
Yes, sir. Sir, there may be a bounce requirement. So I thought of not attending it in the basically in the first requirement, and skip to those answers which I could basically attend. And there may not be a full question which may be unattainable. There may be subheadings or subparts which are attainable. So you can basically score 80 to 90 marks or attend it easily. And yeah, one more tip that helped me was time management. What I did was copied all the exhibit requirements and wrote all the formats for the first 15 minutes. And for the remaining 3 hours, I just had my answer exhibit and the information exhibit open. I so basically copied all in the beginning. So I don't have to go through it again and again. And
Great.
yeah, wrote my finish time or the deadline time after the requirement. So I could know when to move on.
Great approach. Okay, that's quite a good approach. I got to know about that. You just wrote all the formats in the first 15 minutes for task
Yes.
1, task 2, and task 3. So when you write the task, you already had the format in place. You just need to fill up the
Yes.
answer, right? And you copied all the
Yes.
exhibits in the word processing area, so you can just
Yes.
read the exhibit on the word processor rather than going back and again on the exhibits, right?
Yes.
So it's just like one window,
Mm.
and you're focused on one window.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. So I copied the question exhibit, not the information. So I don't have to open the question exhibit again and again.
Hmm.
I could just scroll through my answer window and read the question if I'm stuck.
Yeah, that's quite a good approach. That's quite a good approach. If you have just one window to focus on, you keep yourself quite relaxed in a
Yes,
computer-based exam, right? Opening the windows
yes,
again and
yes,
again can just be too distractive. That's great,
yes.
George. Thank you so much. Mahrukh, your perspective on 3 tips to excel on the day of exam.
Yeah, so the three tips from my end would be to just even before the day of the exam, just stay hydrated, make sure you get a good night's sleep, and just don't study last minute at the exam hall, and also arrive early at your institute wherever your exam is. So yeah, like you sit in the exam hall for 30 minutes or so before the exam starts, and you just calm yourself down. And also just to believe in yourself and know that you did your best. Just have that mindset that I did whatever I could, and now is the time to give my best. And just it's just that we often underestimate our preparation, so it's very important to have that faith in yourself also, that yes, I can do it even if my preparation is not that good, but I can still score well. And some of the minor tips would be to like have a chocolate before your exam. It just boosts, it gives you an energy boost, so have a chocolate and dress well. And especially for SBL, it would give you a good confidence boost if you're dressed well. And another advice for Muslims would be to like recite Surah Kalam before your exam. Just listen to the recitation, it will also calm you down. And also like recite the surah or the dua of Surah Prophet Musa alayhi salam, which is like Rabbi Shrah li Sadri wa Yassir li Amri. That is very good. Like the meaning of it is it's to give you confidence. Allah Pak give me confidence.
Yes.
So, and for non-Muslims, it would be just to like give yourself positive affirmations or something. Even if you're a non-Muslim, you can just motivate yourself by giving yourself positive affirmations. So these are some of the tips.
Okay, that's great. That's great. So I hope all the students into this live webinar and the one watching it over the YouTube shortly, you will be listening to these advices, the 3 tips which have come from Umaima, Jyot, Owais, and Mahrukh, and I hope you will really use them. They were quite good similarities, like a good night's sleep, relaxing yourself before the day of exam. That was quite a common phenomenon in all the tips I got in. Looking at the opportunities, if there is something like a bouncer requirement, you don't know anything, just move on and come back to it later. Really got some very good technique from Jyot that he copied he write all the formats in the first 15 minutes, copied everything on the word processor. So he just focused on it and then writing through the answer. That is quite a good technique. If you have listened to him, that would really, really be beneficial, right? And believing in yourself, having faith in yourself, as Mahrukh just highlighted, it's something which gives you the right exam inspiration you need at the end of the day. So I hope over the last 45 minutes we had indulged into lots of Q&As from different perspectives, trying to get something out of the mindset of Uwais, Umaima, Jyot, and Mahrukh. I hope they had been transparent. They had not concealed anything, because that is very, very important. Because at the end of the day, the purpose of the session was to get something out of your mindset, because it's not that way you got 82 Jyot. It's not that way you got something like 71, 73 Umaima, Owais, and Mahrukh. You must have done something exceptional. But I hope what you told was good enough, and the students will be going down and implementing it on the day of exam. Just for I'll hold you for 5 minutes. I'll just see the Q&As. If there is any specific one and you would like to answer in, then that's fine. Otherwise, you can leave in. Probably you will be having your busy schedules, and you've come from some busy schedules into this webinar. Okay, there was one question at the start which I missed out. I think that time Mahrukh was just speaking about professional skepticism as a skill. And there was a question from Amina, and that was specifically addressed to Mahrukh, because we were speaking about skepticism at the start of the session. She says, I'm always confused about skepticism. Should we ask questions and say we will investigate further? Mahrukh mentioned she used question marks. Can we get more clarity on that? So Mahrukh, if you can just put a minute on clarifying how to go about skepticism skill in the paper. Just let me unmute you. Yes, go ahead.
All right. So by questioning, I mean that to challenge whatever is written in the scenario. It's very important that you challenge what is given to you. So by adding a question mark, I just mean that, for example, in my case, I got the director's suggestions, so I just challenged their suggestions, that there was something about timing, there was something about adding in another director or an NED. So I just said that, okay, is this really important, is this going to make a difference, anything that you comes to your mind. I did not wrote a very exceptional question. I just wrote a basic question that came first in my mind. So that's what I mean.
Okay, so it's just like the tone of questioning someone. It's not like putting a question mark at the end of the statement, right? Okay, okay,
Yeah.
great. Thank you, thank you. Another question, Usman was asking a question that's open, anyone can go about it. Is it necessary to read all exhibits before writing the answer? Means you have like 4 exhibits now in SBL paper, right? So is it about reading all the 4 exhibits and then start answering the task? You all 4 can unmute yourself for this 5 minutes. So anyone can speak anytime, right? So I've given you the permissions to unmute yourself. So anyone can take on the answer.
Yes, sir. So, it's first important to read the task. So, if you read the task, you know which exhibit to read. You could identify a specific exhibit through the task. So, it won't be necessary to read all the exhibits.
Okay,
The
so
exhibits are, specific, can be specific to requirements.
it is, yeah. So definitely not reading all the exhibits together, because now under the new format, you have a task linked with either 1 or 2 exhibit, and you definitely know which exhibits to link that with. Okay, anyone want to add further to this, reading all exhibits together? Umema, I think you were saying something.
I was saying exactly the same thing which you had mentioned. Like you don't need to read all exhibit at once. Like after reading the task, you will know which exhibit you want to read. So you have to just read the specific exhibit.
Okay, great. There was a question for, okay, fine. I think that's all. Yeah, sure.
So can I say something?
Yeah, sure.
I like to say that every task has a specific exhibit, right? Question 1 has a few exhibits and tasks. That's how I remember it.
Yeah.
So I think it is good if you read all the exhibits for one question, right? Because there is some information that you can use in all the questions, but you don't have to go to question 2 and read that exhibit and come back to question 1. That won't help. But reading all the exhibits in one for question 1 would be beneficial.
Okay, but reading all the exhibits for the first task would be beneficial. Because in that way, when you go to the task, for the first task, because in that way, when you go to the task 2 and task 3, you already have some sort of a mindset about what was the information in the exhibit.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I'm saying, I don't remember exactly, but is it the case that for task number 1, there are 2 different exhibits? Is that possible? That's possible, right?
Yeah, it's possible. It's possible, yeah.
Yeah, right. So for task 1, there may be question 1, part A, B, C, right? And part C pertains to exhibit number 2, or part A and B pertain to exhibit number 1. Okay. So if you read both exhibits for task 1, there will be some information that will help you in answering part C or part A, B.
Okay.
From either of the 2, even though A and B are for exhibit 1. That's what I meant.
Okay, great. Got it. Anyone else would like to add to this answer? Should we move on? Is that fine? Okay. Great. So many thanks to all of you for coming in, taking your time out. It was a pleasure having you all on board, because you are all the high achievers for SBL March 24 exams. And since the exam results were out, I did talk to you, or had a message to you on WhatsApp, and we had a WhatsApp communication, but we didn't had any communication like such since the results are out. So it was great having you all on board. I had discussions with Owais Raza. He was already a high achiever in the AAA paper as well. So I had an opportunity to meet him earlier as well in the Zoom session. But Umema, Mahrukh, and Jyot, I'm meeting you for the very first time, right? So it was a great opportunity to interact with you all and to learn from your experience of SBL March 24 exams. Thank you so much. Have a nice day. and whatever you are doing, I wish you all the very best of luck in your goals and etc. Okay, thank you. Thank you, all of you, right?
Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, I'll just be moving towards the wind-up session. Just my panel was there talking to you, and they can stay on, they can leave as they want. I just want to spend another 5 minutes on 11 key takeaways from the SBL June 24 webinar. This webinar was stretched over 3 days, and this was the final third day. So what have we got out of this webinar, especially on the last day where this panel talked to you, they try to inspire you how you can get success in. So just let's do a quick summary. Approach to study, we discussed that on the day 1 of the webinar with exams 19 days away. Now, psychologically, they are 16 days away. So what sort of an approach you need to do for your study excellence? That was discussed on the day 1. I hope you stick to that, you follow that, and you make a timetable what you can do best in the next 16 days before exam. The 15 articles to read, we came across that definition of 15 articles to read on the day 1. I hope you all have that list of 15 articles to read through. Thirdly, priority 1 list of 8 exam papers. We came across that priority 1 list of 8 exam papers on the day 1. Which 8 exam papers you should do, which are under the new format since September 23 exams, including the June 24 exams, mock exams, sorry. So you at least know the new pattern, the new format, which has 3 tasks and 4 exhibits. You know the new time management, and you can implement that effectively. If you have missed any of the sessions, you can catch on the recording on my YouTube channel. Building familiarity with pre-scene, that's important. Even the panel today was discussing that how important is it to build the familiarity with pre-scene, reading it, familiarizing yourself with pre-scene, trying to do a sort of a SWOT analysis over a pre-scene, trying to identify the strength, weakness, opportunities, and threat, or trying to apply some sort of a model on a pre-scene through which you can retain most of the information. You can apply PESTEL or Porter 5 forces. SWOT is a good model to apply on the pre-scene because that gives you a holistic picture of the organization in terms of SWOT, and you can just make a good summary of the pre-scene to retain for the exam. Overall time management, we discussed that yesterday. You had 195 minutes. You have 100 marks in total. So that's 1.95 minutes per mark. I did give you the allocation of the reading and planning time and the writing time. The reading and planning time is 1/4 of the total exam time. You have to split them into task 1, 2, and 3. And the writing time is 3/4 of the total exam time you have for writing. I did discuss about the importance of reading through the September and December 23 examiner reports. This will help you build up an impressive answer because the input you will get out of the September and December 23 examiner report, I did mention the red, green, and blue analysis on the day 2. If you do that analysis, you will productively get some very good points, which will build up your good answer for SBL June 24 exams. I talked about the TEPCA approach yesterday on day 2. I hope you're all very familiar with the TEPCA approach. You can follow that effectively. If you missed out what is the TEPCA approach, you can then follow the day 2 of the webinar. Extraction of points from exhibits and then developing them in sufficient depth is what impress your marker. So you're taking the points from exhibit, you're copy pasting the points from exhibits, and then you are developing upon them, you're explaining upon them. That's what impress the marker. So none of the points should be generic. It should all be extracted from the case, and then you're elaborating upon it, then you are building upon it, and then you're adding the value of the professional marks to it so that you can write in an excellent answer worth 2 marks each point. Focus on journal professionalism. I did guided you about the definition of journal professionalism yesterday. A lot of my students from the panel today talked about the journal professionalism, the right formats, headings and subheadings, avoiding no repetition of points, ensuring every paragraph is 3 to 4 sentences long, not lengthy than that. So you can do these easy things to grab those journal professionalism marks within the 20 marks you had. Follow the instructions of the examiner in terms of how to demonstrate a professional skill under each task examiner will give you a statement of a professional skill, and how you need to demonstrate that. You need to read that statement well so that you know how you need to demonstrate it. And if you demonstrate that when you're writing your technical answer, if you implement that when you're writing the technical answer, you will excel on the professional side of the paper. I did even guide it about that point number 10 on my day 2 of the webinar yesterday. And finally, look at opportunities on the day of exam. This was everything which the panel even told you. Oves, Mahrukh, Jyot, and Mahrukh, they were of the same opinion that on the day of exam, you might get something like a bouncer, something unexpected, something unusual. Don't just glare at the screen, just leave it and move on and come back to it later. You are looking at optimism in the paper. You're not looking at pessimism in the paper. You're looking at the opportunities in the paper. Attack them first, do it first, excel on them first. If you don't know anything, just leave it, flag it, come to it later. That's an excellent exam technique you can follow on the day of exam. Being a strategic level paper, you should expect the unexpected. You should expect some bouncers by the examiner and be prepared for it. That's the like rigor of a strategic level exam in ACCA. I hope you will all find this effective. The 11 takeaways. Muhammad Salman Siddiqui, if you have done the course, you are with me under the course. I hope over the passage of the course, you have read these 15 articles, right? Because as a tutor, I do emphasize on reading articles even in my regular course. Not reading again if you have read them once. Is everyone fine with the 11 takeaways on your screen? If you have missed on any day, please catch the day from the recordings on the YouTube, the day 1 and day 2, and the day 3 recording will go on the YouTube soon. I hope you had a good session today in terms of the perspective you got from Oves, Mahrukh, Umaima, and Jyot. I hope you listened to them, and I hope you understood their perspective of how they excelled, scoring 70 plus marks or even 82 marks, the Jyot score from India. I hope that was beneficial. I hope you got some points from the students which you will be implementing on the day of exam, and you will be excelling. So thank you so much, all of you. I wish you all a very best of luck for your upcoming SBL June 24 exams, and try to do the best. Try to implement any techniques you got from this webinar, which you think was effective, can contribute to your success. So please implement that, and do keep me posted on your results and on your exam paper right after the exams are over, in terms of how beneficial this webinar was in terms of your real exams, right? My registered students, you will be having access to pre-scene. I'll be doing pre-scene 7 to 8 days before exam. It is yet to be released. So once it's released, you will first take an opportunity of reading it, and then I'll be doing a session on that. And then I have to do the mock debrief as well. So a lot of more sessions coming for my paid students, but this was the content for overall SBL students who are connected with me as a tutor. Thank you so much, all of you. Have a nice day, study effectively, and all the best for your exams.